What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Jumpmaster X podcast. And today we're going to talk about how to guarantee you're going to jump higher in the next 3 months and add at least 3+ inches to your vertical. If you're doing these things we're going to be talking about soon, it's literally impossible for you to not be jumping higher. So let's jump into it. First one is you must be increasing your relative strength levels. So what is relative strength? What do we mean by relative strength, Tom?
Just how much you're lifting in a specific lift compared to your body weights. We're talking in the jumping context. A lot of people like to use the barbell back squat as a measure of this. So it's just how much you squat divided by how much you weigh.
No, exactly. So like the equation is, so if say you squatted 180 for one, or say we'll go 405 pounds, and you divide that just by your body weight, and then that'll spit out the magic number. What you want to track over time is that number needs to be increasing. And if you want to take that a step further, you can even track your power. So if you're doing something like a power clean, you can do the exact same thing. And that's probably taking technique out of it, a little bit more of an accurate estimation on whether your relative power output is actually increasing. And you want to ensure you're getting stronger without necessarily increasing your body weight. That's a huge key. And a lot of guys that get stuck in their training, it's simply because of this. And this applies to almost every muscle group. So if you're squatting, that's your glutes, or glutes, quads mostly, a little bit of hamstrings. It can apply to your calves. You want to get your calves stronger. You want to get everything stronger, body as well. Everything stronger in your full body. And if everything is getting stronger and your relative strength levels are increasing and everything, and you're jumping consistently every week, it's hard to not be jumping higher. Next one is you need to transfer that relative strength and ensure that's translating into actually getting more powerful and increasing your power output. And how do we do this? By training speed, training to be fast, training to be explosive. Now, what are some of the best ways to do this, Tom?
Quick, just on the thing we were saying before, there's two ways of increasing relative strength. You either stay the same weight and get the lift that we're talking about up, or you can keep the lift the same and lose body weight. So yeah, just real quick, there's two ways of doing that. And the best way to answer your question is literally max velocity sprinting. So anywhere, past like 40 meters where you actually have the chance to hit that upright sprinting position and you're literally going all out for, 20 to 30 meters at top speed.
No, for sure. And that's something, if you haven't sprinted, you want to progress into slowly over time and ensure you're programming it correctly. And if you want help programming it correctly, you can apply for coaching down below and get coached by Jordan Kilgannon, Tom, and myself. But to get back into sprinting, so you want to do it at least, depends. If you're like a naturally faster guy, you might be able to get away with doing it once a week, but generally 2, maybe 3 times a week. I would say the sweet spot to sprint is twice a week. And that's one of the best ways to increase your power output and to get faster, especially if you're slow. Another way is doing plyometrics as well, that you can get similar benefits through doing plyometrics. They can be a little bit complex to implement in your training correctly to ensure they don't hinder your jump sessions, but ensure you're progressing them properly over time to ensure you don't get injured. But just doing simple things like to start off with, pogo jumps are a really nice start, and then you can progress them slowly over time into doing something like a full-on depth jump. So two of the best ways to get faster, but obviously we also need to include actually jumping and jumping with intent too, but we'll cover that in a later topic. Ensure you're getting stronger, ensure you're training speed, ensure you're getting faster. Next point, probably the most important point, is ensure you're actually doing a jump session or a dunk session once minimum every single week, ideally twice a week. And what we like to do for guys, if they're specifically trying to get better at dunking and they need to work on technique, whether they're a basketball player and they just need to work on their dribble technique and how they're approaching the rim off 2 feet, or maybe it's 1 foot, is implementing a low rim dunk session once a week, but also a higher full height rim dunk session once a week. Because dunking is highly reliant on skill. It's like shooting a basketball or learning a new dribble technique. There's probably quite a few things you're going to need to learn and fine tune and pick up. And we help our athletes with this every day. But having a low rim session allows you to focus more on technique and fine tuning those aspects, especially in terms of finishing dunks. So if you're trying to hit a dribble one hander or a dribble two hander, Like, you'll be surprised how much technique is involved and the different ways you can go about it in terms of executing it. There's not just one way to do it. There's a few different styles, but just having that low rim and having that high rim session, one, to work on technique, but then two, to ensure you're getting those higher outputs in that higher rim session is very important.
Yeah. And that applies to all levels of, athlete, whether you're going for your first off the backboard under both, or you're going for your first dunk, or even if you're going for your first rim grab. All of this is important. Even if you're going for your first rim grab, you can go to the low rim, you can practice stuff that you wouldn't be able to try on 10 at this point in time. You can go to like 8 foot. You can practice between the legs of the glass, whatever. So it keeps it fun, keeps the intent high, and it's the best of both worlds, being able to do both of those things.
No, for sure. For sure. Even if you're a dunk and you're trying to learn new trick dunks, the best way to do that is on a lower rim. Anyone that's any good at dunking started dunking on lower rims. It doesn't matter. Even if you just want to do basic dunks, even if you want to do trick dunks, it's important to do both. In terms of the low rim, it doesn't need to be super low. It just needs to be low enough to where you can actually practice hitting the dunks you want to work on without having to worry about max jumping and maybe not even jumping high enough at that point yet. But very important to do both of those. Even just ensuring you're getting max jumps without the ball in. Even if you don't care about that, even if you just want to do dribble dunks, just having that, getting practice in with a full approach with full speed, like we talked about before, that's a way to get faster. That's a way to get more explosive. And it's a way to overload the body in a very specific way, in the best way to do it if you're trying to jump higher. So if you want to jump higher, sounds stupid, but you need to actually try and jump higher without the ball. Try to touch something higher than that you're not used to. Use
Definitely.
a Vertec, use a Vert trainer, or maybe touch somewhere on the backboard, or try to hit your head on the backboard, or if you a freak, try to hit your head on the rim. Whatever it is, drive intent, because that's gonna make trying to jump higher is gonna make you jump higher. Simple as that.
I like it.
So yeah, next one kind of ties into that is jump technique. Now, a lot of guys, especially when they first start learning to jump, they have a lot of low hanging fruit, easy gains to make just through getting better at jump technique. And that ties into what we just talked about. Like, when you go out and do these 2 jump sessions, ensure you're thinking about what you should be doing. Don't just go out and jump mindlessly. Try to work on it. Film yourself. Film your jumping. Like, look back at what you did and analyze what you need to work on and improve on. It might be your penultimate step. A lot of guys struggle with that. It could be your fluidity through your approach. You could be starting too fast and finishing too slow when you want the opposite. Whatever it is you need to work on, you need to watch yourself, and you need to actively ensure you're trying to develop the skill and improve the skill of jumping. And you'll be surprised through watching the best, like Jordan Kilgannon, the differences between yourself and him, and all of those little things you actually need to work on. Like, no one's absolutely perfect. I'm not perfect. Tom isn't absolutely perfect. So definitely look into that and ensure you're doing that as well, because you might be able to gain 2 inches in a week just from getting better technique.
Yeah. I'd say especially for the 2 foot guys. I think naturally a lot of basketball players have decent 1 foot just from, learning layups and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of people have, decent 1 foot technique, but it's a lot rarer for someone to have like a very good 2 foot techniques. If you're doing both, you're practicing both, really make sure, you lock in that 2 foot technique, because it's a little bit less natural, I would say.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a lot of different jump styles. Even 1 foot, there's speed jumping, there's 1 foot power jumping, and there's going to be differences there that you need to focus on and emphasize. So definitely look into that. Next point is nutrition based. Nutrition, it's essential to ensure you're getting those quality sessions. Like, nutrition can turn what should have been a good jump session into a bad jump session because you didn't eat enough of the right things, or you didn't eat enough in general. And that's where ensuring you're eating enough carbohydrates every day, you're eating enough protein every day. So like, a general recommendation is like 4 to 6 times for a strength and power athlete, maybe 7, 4 to 6 times body weight in carbohydrates. So that's if you weigh in kilos. So if you weigh 80 kilos, 4 to 6 times that grams of carbohydrates. So like 2 cups of rice have 100 grams of carbohydrates. So you need to eat quite a lot of carbs to ensure those fast twitch muscle fibers are getting fueled properly, because your fast twitch muscle fibers are very reliant on carbohydrate intake. So if you're not eating enough carbs, You're not going to add those inches to your vertical. You're not going to be jumping higher in 3 months' time.
Yeah. And like if you undereat carbs, you might even find that the first 10 minutes of your jump session is really good. You're jumping high. Then all of a sudden you just die off for no reason. And a lot of the time, I'll ask people, what happened and like, what did you do like the night before, the morning of, did you eat enough carbs? And most of the time they say no, or they didn't. They ate some carbs, but just not enough. It's actually a lot more than you would think, especially if you're a basketball player and you're burning these carbs of like all day with practices, games, all that kind of stuff.
No, for sure. Even water intake is huge. Hydration is huge. Like your muscles will literally output less force if you're dehydrated. So hydration is crucial in terms of even just cognitive performance, how your brain functions, everything like that. Very reliant on hydration. So that's a big key. And protein, that's going to ensure you're not sore and your muscles aren't fatigued for longer than necessary as well. So like when you go to bed, your body's repairing properly, everything like that. So you need to ensure you're eating enough protein. So all your tissues are repairing, and even your joints and everything like that are reliant on that, your knee health. So that's a good segue into the next thing, ensuring you're staying healthy. So you need to be training correctly, ensuring you're not overtraining and being silly with this sorts of stuff you're doing, because that can lead to injury if you spike your workload too fast and your body's not used to that, or you're just weak and some muscles are underdeveloped. There's so many reasons an injury can happen, but reducing your chances of injury, that can kill all progress. And it could mean instead of you're jumping higher in 3 months' time, it could mean you're rehabbing for the next 3 months, so that's where prioritizing staying injury free and prioritizing that over performance, that's going to lead to faster progress, even if sometimes in the short term you feel like it might lead to slower progress. If it means you're not going to get injured or you have less of a chance of getting injured in the long term, that actually leads to progressing faster, ironically. So yeah.
I like that.
Oh, for sure. So last one is you need to ensure you're pushing hard in your training and training hard enough and training with a high enough intent. So you're not training like a little bitch, but also you need to know when to be a little bitch, when to back off and when to ease off and let your body adapt and recover. And everyone's a little bit different in this aspect. So typically for our training, we will push guys hard for 3 weeks and they'll push hard and train hard for 3 weeks. But then on that 4th week, they'll take it easier and the training's very easy to ensure the body can recover, the nervous system can recover. And that's where you see all the fruits of your labor. So those 3 weeks where you're pushing hard, you might jump higher, but you might not. Don't be surprised if you don't, because you're pushing hard, your body's going to be fatigued. So when you, in that 3rd week, take it a little bit easier, that's where your body starts to recover and adapt, and a lot of the changes are made. And then at the end of that 3rd week or the following week, it's a little bit different for everyone. That's where you realize those gains and you start seeing yourself jump higher, and then you have a new baseline of performance.
Yeah. I was going to say, some people still find that not the week of their deload, but the week after starting the new block is actually when they jump their highest, because they might take a little bit longer to fully rest up, fully adapt from the previous training block. And because the volumes and intensities are still a little bit lower in week 1 compared to what they will be, it gives it in that like kind of middle ground where they're fresh, but they're also still like training semi-hard. And it just allows them to probably see the best of both worlds there and obviously have their best jumps.
No, for sure. And everyone's a little bit different. Like I said, some guys can push a little bit longer, or maybe it just depends on the type of training you're doing through that period. Sometimes it might even be 2 weeks you push hard and then 1 week you back off, depending on how hard your training is. Or maybe it's a life situation as well. Maybe, you're got exams at a certain time, or like work, there's a few stressful work, whatever it is, because that sort of stuff, like outside stress, can impact how you're feeling and your performance and everything like that. But yeah, it's important to know when to push hard and when to back off, because you can't just push hard forever. And if you try to do that, that's where injuries can happen, and you don't end up seeing results and you end up just plateauing, essentially. So it's a very important aspect of training to ensure you're structuring it properly, not only during the day, like on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis, but over a month-to-month basis as well, to guarantee you're jumping your highest in 3 months. So that's where the first month I would push especially hard. The second month, the same thing. But then in that third month, you might take it, you still push hard, but you might take it a little bit easier than the other two to ensure your body can catch up and
Yep.
recover and that you're jumping the highest. So yeah, is there any other, I guess, bonus points you would add, Tom?
I think sleep, not even really a bonus one. I think that's still non-negotiable, is making sure you get your 8 hours of sleep every night. If you want to recover, I think we talked about this last podcast. I'm sure we did. You want to make sure you're
Yeah.
recovering to the best of your abilities and seeing the most gains from the program. Like you're killing yourself in the gym, you're training hard. Don't do yourself a disservice and not sleep enough, because you're not going to get the same amount of gains you would if you did sleep. So go to bed.
Yeah, sleeping more is steroids for your body. But yeah,
Yeah.
with this podcast, like if you're doing all these things and implementing all these things and executing them at a high level, they're very simple. You might listen to this and think they're very simple, but if you're executing these at a high level and doing it consistently, it's almost impossible to not be jumping higher. And if you're struggling to see results and you want to guarantee you're going to be jumping higher in the next 3 months, you can apply for coaching down below and we can help you out. We'll be happy to help you out, but we'll catch you guys in the next podcast.
See you next time, guys. Yeah, buddy.